All right, let's get into it. We're breaking down the UK's brand new budget for 2025. Now, this is a really big deal. It's the government's massive financial plan that literally affects everything, from what you pay at the supermarket to the huge infrastructure projects you see being built across the country.
But look, past all the big numbers and the political speeches, what does it actually mean for us? That's the real question here, right? What's in it for you? So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to break it all down and figure it out together.
Okay, first things first, let's zoom out and look at the big picture, the government's main strategy here. Because this isn't just about shuffling money around and balancing the books. Nope, this is their blueprint for the country's entire economic future.
And you'll see the whole thing is built around these two key phrases, which are pulled straight from the budget documents themselves: going for growth and making responsible decisions for the future. Think of these as the two North Stars guiding every single policy we're about to dive into.
All right, let's get right to the stuff that probably matters most to you and me, our wallets. The budget has a whole bunch of measures that are supposed to help households with the ever-rising cost of living.
And first up, something pretty significant for anyone who takes the train: the putting a one-year freeze on regulated rail fares. Get this, it's the first time that's happened in 30 years. If you're a commuter on one of those more expensive routes, that could save you over 300 quid a year.
Now, if you're a driver, there's something for you too. That 5p fuel duty cut, it's been extended. The government crunched the numbers, and they reckon this will save a typical car-owning family about £89 next year, which is definitely better than nothing when you're filling up the tank.
And it's not just about getting around, they're also looking at healthcare costs. So prescription charges in England are being frozen. They'll stay at £9.90 for a single item.
So here's a quick summary of it all. You can see the projected savings across the board, from energy bills and that rail fare freeze we just talked about, to lower fuel costs and extending that £3 bus fare cap in England. You know, each one is like a little piece of a much bigger puzzle, all designed to take some of that financial pressure off.
Okay, so beyond those immediate costs, the budget also dives deep into some pretty big reforms for the welfare system and public services. This is where things get really structural.
And this quote, which is straight from the report, kind of tells you everything you need to know about their thinking. They're basically saying the current welfare system is broken, that it's trapping people on benefits instead of helping them get back to work. So they believe a major overhaul is needed.
And a huge part of these reforms, a real headline goal, is to tackle child poverty. The government is claiming that by getting rid of the two-child limit in universal credit, their plan will lift a staggering 450,000 kids out of poverty. That's a massive number.
But it's important to understand this isn't just one single change. It's a whole strategy. They're not just tweaking universal credit to make work better. They're also bringing in a new youth guarantee to help young people. And at the same time, they're getting tougher on fraud and errors in the system.
And when it comes to public services like the NHS, the big word is efficiency. A perfect example is this: they're pumping an extra £300 million into NHS technology. The whole idea is to slash bureaucracy, free up doctors' and nurses' time, and hopefully lead to better care for all of us.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and look at the long game. This budget isn't just about the here and now. There's a huge focus on investing in big stuff: infrastructure, technology, basically building the foundation for growth for years to come.
You know, one of the biggest headaches with building anything in this country has always been red tape, right? Well, this slide shows how they plan to tackle that head-on. They're shaking up the planning rules to fast-track about 150 major projects. We're talking everything from wind farms to new train lines.
And to get growth happening at a local level, they're rolling out new tools like these: business rates retention zones. It sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It lets local leaders in places like Leeds keep more of the tax money that's generated in their area so they can pump it right back into their own local projects.
The move to electric cars is another big focus. The budget lays out a really clear 4-part plan to speed things up. Step 1, more money for grants. Step 2, changing tax rules to make even the pricier EVs a bit cheaper. 3, investing in way more charging points. And 4, giving businesses a bit more breathing room to adjust.
Now, I know what you're thinking. All of this sounds great, but it also sounds really expensive. So the million-dollar question, or I guess the billion-pound question is, who's paying for it all? Well, the budget actually has a pretty detailed plan for that.
This chart breaks it all down for us. And look at this, the biggest chunk, almost half, is supposed to come from making government departments run more efficiently. Then you've got another huge slice, 35%, from what they call closing the tax gap. That's basically just a fancy way of saying they're going after people who don't pay the taxes they owe.
And here are the nuts and bolts of how they plan to pull that off. They're aiming for almost £5 billion in savings from the public sector every year. They're also planning to raise an extra $10 billion by chasing down unpaid taxes. And they're tweaking some specific tax reliefs to get more money coming in.
So, what we have here is one very clear vision for how to achieve financial security, right? It's a classic top-down plan based on government policy and public spending. But it's really important to remember, this isn't the only school of thought. There's this whole other growing perspective that says the future of finance has nothing to do with government plans at all. But instead, it's all about decentralized tech, like crypto, a totally different path.
When you boil it all down, this budget is a massive, detailed roadmap for the UK economy. It's got its hands in everything, from our individual bank accounts all the way up to the country's biggest industries. It lays out a very specific set of choices for the next few years.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to chew on. Is this government blueprint the one and only path to financial security? Or, as the world keeps changing at lightning speed, could the real key to our economic future be hiding in some of those brand new, maybe even radical ideas? Definitely something to think about.